Hey everyone, Chris here with you. It's second day, busy here in ClumCon, and not only that, there's a lot more to show and a lot more to do. So, let's go.
What's your name?
My name is Jade.
Say it again.
Jade.
Jade, what's your question?
I just had a question. I don't know how familiar you guys are with board games, but we have one we play called Zombicide.
What's it called? Homicide?
Zombicide?
It's like a zombie?
And yes, there's a character, they do celebrity artists make characters, and there's a character I swear has to be inspired by Heidi.
Oh really? I'd love to see it.
Do you have a picture of it?
I absolutely do.
Oh, that's quite the compliment.
Now, do you work for the board game, or are you trying to make some sales?
That is.
We gotta look it up now.
She's even got like a leather tool belt.
It's a very sexy way to hold a drill, and she's got the tool belt slung across her little denim costume. It's very, very cute. Thank you for that.
Yes, that is a
I would like to have that in my house.
The Makita babe.
She's a stage assistant for a home improvement show.
Oh, is that?
How fun! You did, we'll have to get the
Thank you for
Zombicide. We'll have to
sharing
look
that
that up.
with me.
Look at that. Please come on up. What's your name?
My name is Jimmy.
Jimmy, what's your question?
So the segments on Tool Time just look so real with the banter between you, sir, and Tim. I was just wondering how much of that, if any, was improvised, or was it all pre-written?
It was pretty much pre-written. Tim took some liberties because he's Tim, and he likes to do that. But most of the time, we would get it down to where it had to be because we didn't know. We had 7 cameras. We had a jib camera that would come in. We had one here, one there. There were 7 cameras. So, and the director would sit in the back room and he'd go, okay, camera 2, camera 3, back to 2. And if you changed something or just decided to add something, he'd go, and God. It's like it's wrong camera. So they didn't like us doing it that much. So we kind of figured out where we could, but mostly it was us doing it, for the 50th time, making it look like it's the first time.
Okay, cool.
And that's the beauty of this show. We were really able to do that, and we would tape the show without an audience on Friday in the afternoon, and then we'd go to dinner, bring the audience in, and then we'd tape it kind of like a play. And the audience, we would use the audience as much as possible because we wanted natural laughter. But if there was something that was better during the day, they would splice it in there. And that's when you had to put in canned laughter a little bit.
But they could still use the laughter, but the first take that we did with no audience.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of magic.
That is very magical. Thank you for your question. Now this, of course, being a sitcom and representing a family and having a husband and a wife and 3 boys, you had the ability to watch these young gentlemen grow up. I mean, you were such a big part of their lives as well. Can you tell us any stories that you have about any of the boys?
I gotta think, they're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They would be talking to you a lot.
Yeah, I did have.
They were very enamored.
I had a really good relationship with Zach and Jonathan. Not as much Taryn, but Taryn was a lot younger, and it just wasn't like, I wasn't as. The older boys were more worldly, had funnier jokes, and Jonathan was so quick and good with his timing of his jokes. He was
like a
brilliant,
30-year-old man in a 7-year-old body.
and, and now he's
Now he's 40.
And now he's a 40-year-old in a 7-year-old body. That's terrible. Sorry. Still in that same body.
Yeah.
I remember Zach would come into my room and ask me little questions, and I remember more now than ever because I do have a 13-year-old boy at home, and Richard is doing the show Pen 15, which looks like a penis, right? But it's Pen 15, and I started watching it. Didn't know Rick was on it, and I said, I think this is covering a lot of these questions that the little 13, 12-year-olds are kind of going through, the change, and their hormones are raging. So I started watching it with my son, and my boyfriend's like, "You sure we should be showing him this?" I'm like, yes, this is good. And then he comes on, and I just jumped out of my chair. I was so excited. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, he's doing this show, and it's fantastic. It's really fun to watch. I know that wasn't the question, but...
Well, I remember Zach, this was right after I got picked up as a regular character, because I was a guest star for the first 2 or 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes, and I got brought on to be a regular character. And Zach walks up, and I'm in one of those higher, kind of director chairs that are just a little high, and he crawls up into my lap. And he's 9. He's 9 years old, but he crawls up sits in my lap and goes, "So, are you enjoying being a regular character now?" It was a very adult question, but he was just a kid. He was just, and I thought, this is odd. Because I didn't have, Cooper, our son was born the first season. He's 29 now. Yeah. Well, we were 10 when we had him.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it was very Shakespearean. But I thought that was interesting. Just watching the boys, like you said, Jonathan was really able to tell a joke, and so the writers would write for him because he would tell their joke better than maybe Taryn. But Taryn grew into that. He got better and better at that because he was around it, so he learned.
That was very interesting to see about that dynamic with the kids in the show, especially in the beginning, because you could see that Taryn, he was much younger and he did a wonderful job. But sometimes young actors they'll mouth along with other characters because they're kind of playing all the lines. But he really grew into it, and I think that he blossomed. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Zachary Ty Bryan, they're quick on it.
Jonathan is actually older than Zach, but he played the second son.
Because of the height difference, I'm sure.
And I remember when Zach got his driver's license, and we're in the parking lot on the studio, and I see him drive by in this huge truck he got. Remember the big black truck he got?
Yeah.
And he's driving in, I'm just staring, and he got out, but he still had a parent with him. It was at that point. I went, "Oh my gosh, you're driving." He went, "Yo, this is my new truck." And I went, "Oh God, help us." Okay.
Now we got time for about one more question. If anybody else, you can just raise your hand if anybody else has a question. Anybody? Yes. What's your name?
My name is Jack.
Jack, what's your question?
I was just wondering, is there any specific blooper on set that you remember, like maybe something that's gone wrong and made you laugh a lot?
I have one. Do you have one?
I have one that didn't really happen on the set. I was just breastfeeding my daughter, and I went up to the office, and I had a little question, because when you're breastfeeding, your milk's coming in, and when you're doing a show, you pump. This is a lot of personal information, but it gets funny.
But it's real.
So
it's real.
you're constantly pumping so that your nanny can feed the baby if you have to work. So I ran upstairs to the office, and I was talking to the writers, and I was standing there having a conversation, and I go, not looking at me. And I was, "So do you understand what I'm talking about? Because I just feel like Heidi wouldn't do that." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't look at you right now. You're literally dropping milk from your outfit." And I was talking, and it was coming straight down. And I just, what can you do?
So
I can't believe that didn't make it into the show.
and thank God, right?
perfect. Did you have a particular blooper?
Well, I had an episode where Al gets invited to play poker, and he's so kind of outside the show. He's a little socially inept, and I go, so it's a party. Is there a theme? Right? He goes, yeah. There's a theme. I go, oh, great. And so I show up in like a cowboy outfit.
Yes.
And I have this giant 10-gallon hat. And as I come to the front door, Tim opens the door and the hat is like this. And so I just go like that so that the light can see my face. It was just a natural actor thing. I wasn't trying to make him laugh. But I go like, every time I went like this, he couldn't stop laughing. It was like a half hour to get, hello, come on in. And finally he'd open the door and he didn't look at me. He wouldn't look at me. So then I go, are you sure?
But that was a big blooper when
Yeah.
they did the outtakes, because they haven't just, and then he starts laughing and they do it again.
Yes, and those outtakes did make it into
Yeah.
the credits of the show. One of my personal favorite bloopers that I'd always see was you had come over to help Tim dry out the car after it had been left out in the snow, and you're hungry. You fell asleep, and you are trying to take the sandwich from a sleeping Tim, and you can see Tim.
And again, he
knows you're coming.
Yeah.
And he just every
Yeah.
time, very funny stuff. We're just so thrilled that you're here. We're just so glad to have you, and we're grateful that you're having such a great time. Everybody, please put your hands together again. Thank you again for joining us. Great to have you.
Thank you. This is great.
We hope you enjoy the rest of your time here. If you could please exit to the back of the room.
My name is Chris, and I'm with the Comic-Con here. And how are you enjoying Comic-Con this year?
So far, so good. Having a great time.
Great. So, ever since you left wrestling, what have you been up to?
Playing a lot of golf, trying to make the senior tour. So far, I hadn't made it.
Right. Okay. Now, I've got to ask, what does APA stand for people that are just now getting into wrestling?
I doubt they'd understand it, but the Acolyte Protection Agency.
Right. And also, what is some of your favorite matches that you remember from wrestling?
I had some great matches with Eddie Guerrero, with Undertaker, Booker T, John Cena. We had some great matches with Ron, with the Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian, Kane and X-Pac. I had a long career, so I had a lot of fun matches that I was a part of.
Right. Okay, so those that are trying to break into wrestling and get into wrestling, what would you tell them for advice?
Go to a good school and wrestle as much as you can, be in front of as many people as you can, because that's how you learn.
Okay, and what made you start wrestling in the first place?
I needed a job.
All right. Okay. Well, my name is Chris.
Thank you.
My name is Chris, and I am in. Where are we at today?
Well, we're in Rhode Island.
Okay.
This is the Rhode Island Comic-Con. We're in Providence, Rhode Island. Even more specific than that. And you're with Richard Karn.
Now, Richard, you played a really awesome character on television on Home Improvement as Al Borland. And I've got to ask you, what are some of the memories that you have from Home Improvement that shoot behind the scenes?
Wow. Well, gosh. The last season we went all the way up to Traverse City. Have you ever been to Traverse City?
No.
Upper State, Michigan, Upper Peninsula. It's gorgeous. And I remember doing that. That was a lot of fun. I remember dropping a beam on a Nomad, which, it wasn't really a Nomad. It was a mock-up. But we got cards and letters like we were herding baby seals. I remember working with Morgan Fairchild. I remember working with Ernest Borgnine and Jack Elam and George Foreman. It's just, it was 8 years of just having a great time.
Now here's the kicker. I am a big Airwolf fan, so I loved it when you guys had Ernest Borgnine on Home Improvement.
Do you remember the joke?
I wish. I can't.
Well, the joke was that the two of them, Jack Elan, you remember Jack Elan? He had that eye that would just he did a lot of old westerns, but he had a wandering eye. So then you had Ernest Borgnine with this this face, and they both worked on the line at the Ford company. One of the last guys on the Ford, it might have been Thunderbird, and Tim goes, to Ernest Borgnine, goes, so what do you work on? He goes, I work on bumpers. And his face is like this bumper. And then they cut to Jack Hill and he says, well, where do you work? I'm aligning the headlights, and his eyes like going off and like that. It was a great joke.
Right. And so those who are trying to break into acting, what kind of motivation and tips would you give them?
Watch a lot of things. You can learn a lot by watching different styles of acting, different styles of people. Reading is huge. I mean, doing your research, that's big. And maybe taking classes in school. If you're in school, do the school plays. If you're in college, take Acting 101, or if you're out of college, look for a good acting class. It's the doing of it that you have to get under your belt.
Okay. And what made you start acting in the first place?
Well, I kind of did it on a dare. I was like in high school. Well, I had already done something in junior high, but in high school, they said, I'll audition for this if you audition for it. I go, yeah, okay. And so I auditioned for it, and I got it, and I wasn't brilliant, but I was good, and the audience liked it, and that was a good feeling.
Right. Now, one last question is, we want to know if there's ever going to be a home improvement get together or something happening.
Yeah, I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future, mainly because the producers, Disney and Windancer, are at odds still after 30 years. But Tim and I are doing a new show on the History Channel called More Power.
Okay, and what's that about?
It's about him and I reminiscing, talking about old times, going a deep dive into tools and a couple of projects.
All right, well, I look forward to that. Thank you very much for your time.
All right.